Welcome to Ask Shannon, a place for grace, where one mother's passion and determination for her child, diagnosed with a rare disease, was suddenly faced with saving the life of her special needs child. This became her only focus. When the life of her child was threatened, Shannon Kinnett's instincts led her away from conventional medicine. She desperately found an alternative, natural approach, and the outcome was astounding. Shannon shares her knowledge and Grace's story, now full of hope and happiness.
And now, Shannon Kinnett's.
One of the things I get asked a lot is, how do I actually track Grace's progress? Especially if you maybe are doing multiple therapies, but especially like, how do you track it with hyperbarics, let's say? And one of the things that I have done with Grace is I have kept video. There's these neat little flip videos that you can get where you do like before, during, and after. And I know that a lot of people are using that to be able to track the progress, because as parents of special needs children, we know that we're just looking for something. And it's important for us to see something, but sometimes we may think that we're just kind of like thinking that we saw that, and it maybe really isn't true. I know I was like that a lot when Grace first started hyperbarics. I said to my dad, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" Because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just something that was being hopeful for me and that I was really seeing it. So I really encourage you to do as much videotaping as you can. I encourage you to do documentation, like write down the things that your child is doing prior to hyperbarics and whenever they do something new. And one thing that I know that somebody is doing out there, a friend of mine who has a hyperbaric clinic, when parents come in there, he sits them down, puts a piece of paper in front of them and says, write down 10 things that you want your child to do. And they look at him and they're like, what do you mean? What do you want for your child? Write down 10 things that you would like to see happen with your child. They write it down, they give it to him, he puts it in a sealed envelope, and he takes it. And what's really cool about that is after they start doing hyperbarics and they start talking to him about the different things their kid is now doing, he hands them back that envelope. Or a year later, when he runs into them or he sees them, he'll mail it to them to remind them, wow, look where your kid was a year ago. These are the things that you were asking for your child to do. And we forget that sometimes as parents, especially if we're like in a lull and we're like, okay, well, we've seen a lot of progress and now we're not seeing any. Kind of brings us back to like where our child actually was prior to doing hyperbarics or any other therapy. I know that I'm like that with Grace, where sometimes I get discouraged like any other parent might get because Grace isn't doing what I really want her to be doing at this particular time. And I have a lot of friends that'll remind me where Grace was. I mean, she was on life support. She wasn't sitting up, talking, walking. She had a feeding tube. She had seizures. And is she talking in sentences? Maybe not. But she wasn't even supposed to be able to say mama. And now she says, mama hungry, mama cookie, mama night-night. So she's able to communicate with me. And sometimes we have to really bring that back. So as a parent, I can tell you, do the simple documentation. I don't necessarily believe in having to do all these expensive testing to see where your child is before and after. You're going to know where your child is. You are going to know what your child did prior to hyperbarics or any other therapy and where they're at that particular time after you started that therapy. Nobody knows better than us parents. So just keep simple documentation. When Grace ever does anything new and I happen not to be around, we have it in that Grace journal I talked about in one of my earlier shows that, I do travel a lot, but I want to know what's going on in Grace's life. So we have a daily log. When she says a new word or she does something funny or she does something funny to her sister Lily, that's all documented and it's written down so that I can see the progress in Grace even when I'm not around her. So do simple documentation, keep notes, keep a journal, take pictures. One thing that probably flipped video hate for me, but write them a letter and tell them, this is my situation and my story. And sometimes they will send you a camera that's been used or they'll give you a discount on a camera. But, keeping documentation like that is something that's important because we have it in our memory. But when I look back at things, at videos of Grace, it really brings me back and it really, really reminds me of how incredibly fortunate that I am and how incredibly I'm lucky that, I decided to try hyperbaric therapy because now look where my daughter is. And so when I'm having those bad moments, I know that I have that vision in my head, but when I actually see it on paper or I look at a picture of her in her wheelchair and now I look at her picture of her swinging on the swings by herself, it's huge. And so, those simple things can help push us the extra mile that we need to go if we're in those lull moments. So just take a lot of simple documentation and have the people that are caring for your child take that simple documentation, because you do that for your typical kids. You document everything that they do. I documented Lily's first dance, that first year of her life. Every day I had her in getting her portrait taken. So we need to do the same with our special needs kids, because we seem to have a little bit more trouble grasping that, we should be fortunate for all the little gains that we get, and that's what's really important. And if you're having one of those days where you're just not getting it or you need extra help, contact me. You can go to shannonandgrace.com, shoot me an email, and I will be more than happy to remind you of exactly how happy and lucky you should be where you're at, because it really just takes a little bit extra motivation and looking back on where you were to where you are today to know that you still have farther to go, and never give up hope, because if you have hope, then anything is possible.
Please share this information with anyone who is facing special needs or health concerns at any age. Shannon's goal is to help as many people and parents as possible. If she can save you any heartache sharing the knowledge of what she has learned, that saved her daughter's life, and possibly save you tens to even hundreds of thousands of dollars in resources that she spent, her goal is accomplished. Please visit shannonandgrace.com for continued updates and free resources. Send her an email with your questions. Subscribe to her YouTube channel. She is here to help you and will do all she can to assist.